When someone comes in with something like this, like leg pain after pregnancy, we don't just expect people to live like this or that it's normal. It's definitely a hard thing for the body to go through a pregnancy, even though we're made for it. There's all kinds of ligament laxity that happens and different loading because of the belly and the weight. A lot of changes or some things can happen to the disc or your body during a pregnancy that leads to something like this. Our job really here is to assess the body and see what's going on. And sometimes that requires some imaging, or sometimes that requires just like trial care. In this case, we found some imaging that lined up with her actual symptoms. Anna was a patient here before all this actually conspired, and I watched her go through her pregnancy and took care of her during her pregnancy. And with that, we watched all kinds of changes, and she was doing really pretty well during her actual pregnancy. After that, this thing started and we had taken care of her, but it wasn't really responding. The standard side posture adjustments, like the side pretzel, was aggravating her back, in fact, and I was on the fence about doing that anymore. So we started trigger more gently with drop pieces, but I really wanted an MRI, and it took a little while to get it done, but we finally got there. With what she had going on, she had some nerve involvement. It wasn't just back pain. She didn't really have a ton of back pain originally. She had mostly leg pain down the side of her calf. And the other thing about her was she was really stuck in like a forward hinged position, and she couldn't actually stand up straight. This is where it kind of threw the red flag for me. I could tell that the nerve pain was coming from like a central location, like the spine or a disc, and it really got me thinking like, hey, we need to dive into this, take this a little bit more seriously, because it wasn't modifying with really simple conservative care like we do in here, chiropractic, physical therapy, things like that. And it was just progressing and getting worse. So we finally got an MRI on her, and it said exactly what we thought. It was the L5S1 disc. She had an actual protrusion off of her disc into the hole where her nerve leaves the spine at that level, and there was actual pressure on a nerve, which I don't say very often. The other component to this isn't just the actual structure of the disc, it's what's going on around it. And there's a lot of chemical inflammation going on, and that's what takes a lot of time for your body to metabolize, eat up, and resolve. At this time, we chose spinal decompression as the form of care for the time being, because we had already done some of the conservative stuff that should work for this, and it wasn't responding. Not to mention, Anna had a baby at home, a newborn that she wanted to take care of, and she couldn't fathom having an operation and not be able to take care of her kiddo. The other thing was she just was really nervous about having a good outcome or a poor outcome with the surgery, so she wanted to avoid it at all costs. Once we finally chose to do the DRX, she started the treatments, and there was little improvement over the first couple weeks, and I was starting to get discouraged myself, and we know some of this takes time, and now we're approaching that 14 to 20 visit mark on the DRX, and that's where we started seeing like, hey, she's standing up straight, she's starting to have some positive things, but her pain in her leg is just not totally getting better. It's only mildly improving over time. That's where we made the call to collaborate with another profession and see if maybe a steroid injection or something like that would help out to get us over the hump. Due to the severity of her leg pain, we decided to collaborate with another profession and decided it was time for a steroid injection. Thankfully, we found a great office to provide this for her, and this really got us over that hump to set us up for the final kind of round of care and getting her back to her normal life. A lot of times people think that pain reduction is like the only thing, but success isn't just that. It's really getting somebody back to their normal life. And for her, she wanted to be a present mother in her newborn's life and her other kiddo's life. And then also just get back to doing the things she loves, like going on vacation and playing some tennis, going on walks and just being active. Now she's able to do that. And without patient-centered care, she wouldn't have been able to get back to doing the things that she loved without a surgery. Our goal is to always help people make informed decisions, but if we can help someone avoid surgery and get their life back, that's a win. Can you tell us what was going on with your body when this all started?
Yeah, so I had just delivered a new baby for my very first one the beginning of May, and 6 weeks postpartum, I was done bleeding, so I thought I will get back out there, and we went to go play tennis. something that I had played in high school, something that I had always played. And during a backhand, I just felt my back get really achy, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe my core strength isn't back yet. And so I took a break and thought that it would just resolve itself with rest. And that was just really like the beginning of.
How long did you put off dealing with it and why?
I feel like for the true treatment result, it took from the middle of June to the following February. And a lot of it was just denial. Like I thought, one, some of it is like, I just had a new baby. I'm going through a lot. I'm carrying around this little muffin that doesn't weigh a lot, but is like dead weight. I'm looking down nursing. So it's like I'm putting my body through different things. So it's not getting to rest as much on its own. And for a while, it was just, I had an achy back from June until about September. And then that's when the nerve pain had started. And it would just start every time I stepped. And then it progressed into, it would flare up when I stopped walking. So when I would lay down at night, and it was like my whole leg was on fire. And then it was like, okay, cool. I'm not going to stretch myself or rest myself or adjust myself out of this. But what was crazy is that you said, I think you have a bulging disc. And I left and I called my sister who had had tons of those. And she goes, I don't think you had that. And so I had dismissed your opinion based on someone else's experience in their own body and thought, I just need to look at something different. And then we finally did the MRI, and it was like, oh, what do you know? A bulgy disc.
So then what finally made you decide that you needed to do something?
It wasn't getting any better. And so I told myself, like, okay, I needed to rest. Okay, well, now I need to move. So for an entire month, I walked a mile a day on a walking pad, really focusing on my steps, my posture, working on getting my body stronger since the resting part didn't work. And then Christmas Eve, we were walking the dogs, and I guess those were being pulled by our dogs. And there was just another little like, oh, what is that? That it hurt. And then we had won a trip through my work to Snowmass, and we had taken like 6 flights of stairs down to their little common area. And going down all of those stairs, I was like, oh, fuck, like what is that? And the 6 hours there in mountain traffic and 6 hours back, I was to a point where it was like, I can't stand up straight anymore. I can't even like shower standing. Like it's whatever I'm doing is not working. And I need to try to find something to help me get better.
What was your experience like with the DRX?
So I got a couple different opinions. I was presented with the DRX option, knowing that it would be a longer amount of time. And then I also had gotten a second opinion to do like shockwave therapy, which was half the cost, half the amount of time. And ultimately it was just having a conversation with Dr. Seth to say, can you tell me what the difference of this is? And one of the things that you had said was, you said, I think it's a great tool, but it's not the right tool for the job. And knowing that had I listened to you in November, when you said I had a bulgy disc, when I could still stand up straight, when I was getting some pain, but still pretty much mobile, where kind of discounting that had led me, I was like, okay, well, I owe it to myself to trust you and to trust your opinion. And even though this will be longer and more expensive, it will has the potential to avoid surgery, and I could get better long-term. And so just try to do a Band-Aid.
You also ended up with some steroid injections. Can you tell me how that fit into your overall recovery?
Yeah, I think it was kind of the last and final piece of the recovery, because we had done the DRX for over 3 months. And my back wasn't hurting anymore. People would look at me walk and they would say, oh, your poor back. And I'm like, I don't feel anything there. I think everything is in the side of my calf. It is liquid burning fire 24/7. And then I would just lay in bed at night, just waiting for my body to give up so I could go to sleep every single night. And like, God forbid I got woken up, because I would just have to start over. And I'm nursing our baby, so you can't like take anything. So you just are waiting. And even when we would do the DRX, when it would get to the end, my calf would still just light up. And it was like, what is this? And so I always thought it was an either or of like doing the stinger root injection or the DRX, but combining them at the end is really what took the pain away in the calf. And so all the progress we had made on the DRX machine finally like came full circle once we calmed that nerve down, because my nerve was shocking my muscle, and then my muscle was tightening around it because it was pissed off, and they were in like their own battle completely away from my back and my disc.
How does your leg feel now compared to before? What are some things that you couldn't do before that you can do now?
I mean, really, like everything. When I look at like I went to see a pelvic floor specialist, and in my intake form, it was like, what can't you do? And it was like life, like sitting in my car, walking into someplace, standing in line, standing to shower, standing to get dressed, holding my baby, carrying my baby anywhere. It was like this incredibly limited version of reality that it's so weird that like people will accept what's happening to them because they're just like enduring through it without like stopping to say like, I'm not going to live like this. Like, what the fuck is happening here? Like, I'm not going to do this. But you just get, the pain just kind of wears you down into accepting things that you would think otherwise were incredibly unacceptable. And so now it's like I woke up from a really, really bad dream. It's like the life I had before that one day I played tennis with that one ball in that one moment. It's like that whole year of my life was like a bad dream, and I got to go back to normal.
What does it mean to you that you're able to heal without surgery?
Mostly just peace of mind. You know, I've met women, and especially through this journey of having so much nerve pain, where you meet people along the way where they say, oh, that happened to me, or I had something like that. And knowing that there are people in their 50s and 60s that I've met that they had to have spinal surgeries in their 30s and 40s, and they still have issues, and they're still going in. And what started as like, oh, we'll just do a little bit here. You know, one of my friends, she has a whole like metal little cage in her back, and she has a metal like pulsing medicine thing, and she can't go outside when it's cold. But that's her reality because there were no other options 20 years ago. So now she's in her 60s, and she's a grandma, and she's super active, but she's very limited by an injury that she got decades ago. And so knowing that I was spared from that, it was almost like 1 year of like a purgatory to like not end up in like health hell.
What would you say to somebody who's been dealing with a similar thing but been putting it off?
I would say that I know you're trying to do the best you can with the resources you have, and that you're trying to think that if you rest just a little bit more, or you're a little more active, or maybe you just don't drink inflammatory drinks, then it'll just solve itself. But take a solid look in the mirror and say, what am I doing now that I never thought I would be doing? And for me, that was like, wow, I can't shower standing up. I have to choose between shaving my legs or washing my hair because I can't sit that long in there, you know, and just kind of saying like, what quality of life have I accepted? That if my best friend were to be doing it, that I would intervene on their behalf and tell them that they deserve a way better, healthier life, and give yourself that gift, or just finding another opinion that isn't you, Dr. Google, your spouse, or your family, like finding an educated, qualified person to tell you what your body needs so that you're not ending up like me. Like it was June 16th that I got injured of 2025 or 2024, and I didn't get better until June 6th, 2025. So it was almost an entire year. But from June to February, I had just put it off, and I waited until it was virtually unbearable to do the DRX, but it wasn't for a long enough time. So that was one of the things that you really stressed is like, this isn't a one and done. You're not going to be better next week. You're not going to be better next month. You know, this is a process, and you need to like commit to the process of doing it. But Jeff had met someone where, yeah, they said they did 8 sessions and his symptoms hadn't improved. So they just moved him on to surgery instead. And so I think that there's a lot of really good quality information that's overlooked, because even when I went to to see if I could get the injection, and I was like, yeah, I'm doing spinal decompression therapy. And she was like, oh, is that doing anything? Like almost like I said, I was dancing naked in the woods with a fire stick, you know, and like just really like just left off, like it didn't matter. And then even when I got and spoke to the doctor who was doing my injection, it was like, yeah, I've done spinal decompression therapy for this amount of time. And he's like, yeah, we don't really see that as an effective method, but we see this as effective. But, you know, after 3 months, you can come back and get another one. And it's like, I got one injection in June, and that was the end. And so I think the knowledge and the legitimacy of what the DRX is because a lot of medical professionals are, it's like, it's not that big of a deal when it's like, sorry, your hospital didn't make hundreds of thousands of dollars by completely ruining my life for the next 3 decades. So I think just being able to finding a way to speak on that